And good afternoon, everyone. Really excited for this webinar today. Today we're joined with Carson Williams, and he is a proud Boise State alumni and a current district manager at ADP, helping for-profit and not-for-profit small businesses manage their back-end administrative processes through efficient and cost-effective solutions. So thank you so much, Carson, for being here with us today. We're excited to learn about this new policy and hear insight from you.
Thank you, Garrett. Hopefully you guys can all hear me all right. Hope everyone's doing well wherever you're watching from. I'm sure like many of you, I'm sure many of you are working from home like myself, ready to get back out, but not much of an option right now. But first and foremost, I want to just thank you all for joining in and thank Idaho Nonprofit Center for having me and Garrett. My name is Carson Williams. Like he said, I'm the district manager for ADP here in Boise. For those of you who aren't familiar with ADP, we manage the payroll, HR, and compliance for about 700,000 business clients, from small mom and pop shops to large national corporations to nonprofits like many of you. So in fact, we actually pay about 1 in 6 Americans. So as you can imagine, we definitely have to stay on top of all the latest legislation coming out. And why I'm here is to hopefully help make sense of this new legislation regarding the deferral of Social Security taxes for all of you. So let's just jump right into it. I'll try and keep it fairly brief. And if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, and I can try and take a few minutes here at the end to answer all of them. So let me make sure I have this technology down. There we go. Okay, so here's what we've seen kind of so far. First off, on August 8th, we received a presidential memorandum from Trump that essentially gave us some of the details of what we should expect to see in the coming months regarding deferral of Social Security taxes. So then a few weeks later, on the 28th, the Treasury Department and IRS they gave an official notice implementing that presidential memorandum. So this gave kind of the details of the new legislation, including this time frame that you're looking at here. So what you're looking at is just the time frame of the Social Security taxes, which September 1st through December 31st of this year is when employees can defer the Social Security taxes, and then they will be paying them back on January 1st through April 30th of next year, so 2021. I'm sure you're probably saying, well, Carson, September 1st already passed, and yes, obviously you're correct there, but employees are still in fact able to begin deferring their Social Security taxes at any point during this period. So if it's still relevant, it's all still relevant today, and they can start deferring. It's not something that had to be started on September 1st. So here we go. If this is, if this is something you haven't looked into yet, you have a choice here. You can either, as the employer, you can either choose to offer this Social Security tax deferral option or choose not to. There aren't going to be any penalties or repercussions or anything if you decide this isn't the route you want to go. If you do decide to offer this, however, you will be responsible for both the deferral of Social Security taxes as well as the payback withholding from employee wages. When you're withholding the previously deferred amounts, you will generally want to do so in even amounts throughout the 4-month period of January 1st through April 30th, just to make things more manageable for the employees rather than taking it all out at once. But if your employee happens to quit or no longer work for the company during that payback period, you can actually withhold the full remaining amount on that last paycheck, just so you're not stuck with paying the remainder of the Social Security tax, because if you don't do that, that can happen. So now, well, let's see. Oh, there we go. So now if you do decide to offer the deferral, that doesn't mean that each employee must participate. Just like you, as the employer, have the option, each of your employees will as well, choosing whether they want to opt in or opt out. Obviously, they only get that choice if you guys decide to opt in as the employer. You're going to want to educate your employees on what the deferral would mean for them, including just making sure they know the standard Social Security tax rate of 6.2% of gross wages, as well as the dates and other details that I mentioned in that previous timeline. Also, not every employee will qualify which is super important. This deferral is only allowed for employees who make less than $4,000 biweekly, or what would be the equivalent of that. So $2,000 weekly, and so on for the other types of processes. And yes, your employees can be eligible in some pay periods, but not others. For example, so if they're paid $3,500 every other week, typically, but then get a $500 bonus, they're not going to be eligible that pay period because other Social Security taxable wages like commissions and bonuses are included in that income, and the cutoff is exactly at 4,000. So if they're making 3,999, they do qualify. 4,000, they do not. So it's a hard cutoff there. By the way, I think the most important thing I need to stress here, and that you should stress to your employees, is that this deferral isn't a stimulus or a grant. The money is going to need to be paid back in the full amount starting January 1st. So definitely keep that in mind. But I'm sure at this point, some of you are probably saying, all right, well, I want to offer this to my employees. This could definitely, help them out in the short term. How do I make it happen? And earlier I mentioned you'll need to give your employees notice if you offer the tax deferral, as well as educate them on everything. And I'll have the team get me a list of emails of everyone who signed up, so I can shoot out a customizable notice form that you'll be able to print out and give or email to your employees, with your business name on it, and it'll have all the information they need to know. And then, a checkbox of, are they opting in or are they opting out? So it'll give them that choice as well once they've had a chance to read through and know exactly what it means for them. As I said, though, actual deferral and withholding of the Social Security tax, it's on you, the employer. I do know that for our ADP clients, like Idaho Nonprofit Center, that ADP's been on top of all the new legislation that resulted from COVID. Is a bunch of stuff just keeps coming out, it seems like, every day. So if you elect to defer an employee's taxes in our system, it'll automatically defer and then withhold the correct amount of taxes in the respective periods, so that A, you're staying compliant, and B, you aren't having to do the extra administrative work that would come with this. Otherwise, those of you handling payroll either in-house or through another source, you'll manually calculate the Social Security taxes for the employees that qualify and elect to defer. Then you'll also need to make sure to withhold those same taxes from the employee's paycheck in that period mentioned before of January 1st through April 30th, 2021. And I don't have the details, but miscalculating or paying back all the taxes, or not paying back all the taxes, can definitely get you into some hot water, obviously. So just be aware of that if you're trying to handle this yourself or internally. It's something that you have to definitely be on top of. Otherwise, the IRS is gonna be knocking on your door. So that's really all I had for you today. Wanted to keep it pretty brief. It's not too complicated. Hopefully that helped you kind of sort out some of the new legislation. I'll go ahead and stick around, though, for a few minutes to answer any questions you have in the chat. But before I do so, I definitely wanted to thank, Amy Little, Evan Baskin, obviously Garrett, and the entire Idaho nonprofit team, just for not only allowing me to speak, but for being part of the ADP family. So like I said, I'll go ahead and stick around now. Feel free in the chat box to ask any questions, or you can unmute, however you guys want to do it. But thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Carson.
Absolutely.
And folks, if you want to turn your cameras on or turn your mics off with a question, feel free to do so, as well as feel free to put questions in the chat. And it looks like Shauna said, just want to make sure that this is optional for employers.
Yes. So the main thing is it's optional for you as the employer. You don't have to do this, and there's no any repercussions or anything if you don't. It's completely allowed. And then from there, if you do decide to offer it, then your employees will have the option to opt in or out. So even if your employee comes to you and says, hey, I want to do this, you do have the ability to say, as a company, we're not doing this.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And Carson, just to be clear, I wrote down here that you're saying that this isn't a stimulus or a grant, that these employees will still have to pay this come January 2020 or 2021, right?
Correct. Yeah. So it's not clear. Some people have their theories that this will eventually. Obviously, the election's probably involved as well with what might happen, but some people are thinking that they might end up doing away with it, making it another stimulus for people that decide to opt out. But I definitely am not going to advise on anything there. And I would play it safe and assume that they're for sure going to make you pay it back, because as of right now, that's what the legislation reads. So it would just be on top of their typical. So obviously, Social Security tax is 6.2% of gross wages. So it'd be deferred this year, September 1st through December 31st, and then January 1st through April 30th, you would pay the extra 6.2% on top of the Social Security tax you would already have been paying for that year. So it's a pretty short time period of deferring the money before you have to pay it back.
Gotcha. And the main audience or group of people that this law was written for and trying to help is folks who are struggling right now with COVID and really tight money-wise and could use extra money from their paycheck in hopes that things are going to reopen and more work and more money will be coming in later, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, honestly, again, I don't want to advise anyone on what they should and shouldn't do, but at least in my opinion and my reading of it is, if you don't need to do this, if it's, not a dire situation, then I wouldn't probably suggest it. If you're, having tough times like a lot of people are, and you need to get through the year, then it's probably a good idea. But just like I said, know that it's quickly coming back, that you're going to have to pay it. So it's not very long term.
Awesome. And do we have any other questions from folks on the line? Got a few thank yous. This is really helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, and like I said, I'll send out the sample notice form just for you guys to have, and you can customize it a little bit, just with your company information and everything. And if you do decide to opt into this and offer it to your employees, in case there's any that are needing this right now or looking for it. So
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, Carson, thank you so much for your time that you put into preparing this and for delivering it. We really thank you and ADP for all the great work that you do. And thank you everyone for joining us. I will be sending a follow-up email with this recorded Zoom webinar, and we'll also be sure to include Carson's note as well. And if you have any further questions, feel free to contact Carson as well. His information is right on that slide there. So thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
thanks everybody.